Over the last 10 years, I've published over 10,000 pieces of content and collectively accrued over 75,000 followers and subscribers across all my social media platforms and email list. And on this video, I want to share with you the 4 specific things that I've learned. What's up, guys? Nico Rapklis here. I want to show you really quick. These are just a few of my social accounts. So here's one that I have 20,000 followers. Here's another one that I accrued over 14,000 followers. Here's an email list that jumped into the a little over 7,000, and that's just a handful of them. And I've had multiple accounts. I've had Facebook accounts that got shut down. I've had a lot of things, but I've built up a lot of social media accounts, and I understand what people are looking for and what it really takes to create content, but then also actually attract people into your audience. So on this video, I want to walk you through 4 specific things that I learned, and even a little bonus thing that actually has come to me recently that has actually made my content creation a lot more simplified, a lot easier, and a lot more time efficient. So if you want to watch all of this type of stuff and you're interested in that kind of stuff, make sure and stick around all the way to the end. Let's dive into number 1. Okay? So first and foremost, I always love sharing this, is that creating content is a personal development and it's a spiritual journey. Okay? Understand that first and foremost. That's one of the biggest things that I can always tell people, because they're like, oh, I'm not sure what to say, and I don't know how to inflect my voice and use the right vocal tonality, or maybe they don't even know how to explain any of that type of stuff. And understanding that you are actually learning so much about yourself and understanding your journey so much simply because of the fact that you're actually stepping out there and you're having the courage to put yourself out there and speak something, right? And you learn so much along the process. If you don't go out there and actually create content, then you won't learn anything about yourself. And when I say content, that can be anything. Like I have a podcast and I consider that a lot of content, but we were already having these type of conversations and having great conversations before we even were recording them. So then we just started recording them and now it's documented. And that's a big point on what allowed me to unlock myself, is because I became a lot more what I call run and gun, which I'll get to here in a second, which is a big reason on why I've been a lot more efficient and energy efficient, time efficient with the content that I put out there. So understand, the more that you actually put yourself out there, the more that you start understanding yourself and learning about yourself and learn what's called the GPS. It's basically your global positioning system, knowing where you are, knowing your vision and where you want to go, the awareness of what's holding you back, and you actually utilize content to help you actually get through all of those blocks, understand your vision a little bit more. The more I've created content, the more I speak, the more I share, the more I publish, the more I learn about myself, the more I learn about my awareness of what's going on underneath in the surface. When I say things, I can watch my content back and see oh, why did I say that? What's that telling me about my subconscious, right? Those type of things. And then when you start getting clear and you start communicating your vision and your values and all that kind of stuff, when you start understanding that stuff a lot further, you're able to make better content and you're able to communicate better. And when you continually do this day in and day out, you keep on creating content, it helps you so much with actually learning about your vision, your values, your identity. Right? I've learned so much about myself, and I would not be where I am today if I didn't publish, well over 10,000 pieces of content, whether that's emails, whether that's, YouTube videos, whether that's Instagram posts, whether even Snapchat, Instagram stories. I mean, you name it. I've been across all the platforms, Facebook groups, Facebook posts, going live. All sorts of different things, getting on Zoom, leading calls, leading events, really putting myself out there. And again, this was the biggest personal development journey because it took a lot of risk. It took a lot of courage to put myself out there. And that's the one thing that I advise you to really consider, is that yes, it's going to be great when you start putting out content and you get a lot of attraction and attention from other people, but it's more about the journey that you go on and the person that you become, because now, 10 years into this, I can just turn on the camera, put a little outline together. Sometimes I don't even put the outline together, and all of a sudden I can riff for 15 minutes when that would have been challenging to do 15 seconds when I first started out. So understanding that the first step is that creating content and communicating your message. It's going to refine over time. You're going to get better over time. And it is a journey. It's a personal development journey. It's a spiritual journey. And that's the most important thing, because that leads us into step number 2, or lesson number 2, I should say, is that the energy that you put into your content is what people are going to feel, and that's what they're actually going to take away. I'll give you a firm example and a quick story on where this all comes from. So one of the pieces of my journey in creating content, after I started creating content, I want to get a lot better at presenting and sharing and delivering a message and communicating and influence and persuading. I started going to a organization called Toastmasters, and Toastmasters is basically an organization that helps you get better at public speaking. And when I first came in, I was all scripted out, and I knew like the whole entire presentation, which was like 8 minutes, and I basically memorized the entire thing. Okay. And then I started understanding this whole concept of being a run and gun content creator and being able to spit right off the top. When I say spit right off the top, meaning like I learned freestyle. I learned freestyle rap, and it helped me significantly and helped me be a lot more present and a lot more in the moment. And so when I started learning freestyle and I started being so much more present with my content creation, I could just literally just riff off the top of my head. I could just be less in my head. I could be in my body a little bit more. I could focus on the message. I could kind of pivot and evolve exactly where I wanted the message to go. And what was interesting is because I had a really wild accident, as a lot of you know if you're watching my content for any period of time. But if not, I tore my pectoral tendon. It ripped right off the bone, right? And so I had this whole spiritual awakening, okay? And after that, I started to get more present. I started meditating more, and I started getting more grounded within my energy. And because of that, I started being more present and more just mindful while I'm creating content. And because of that, my content was so much better, and that's actually what people felt. And so coming back to the Toastmasters story is that before and after my surgery and before and after that accident, I was a completely different speaker and presenter and content creator. And when I came back to Toastmasters, people gave me the craziest feedback, and they said, like, you are night and day different. And so understand, I say all that because there wasn't too much different of what I was actually saying in my presentations and in my content, my delivery, but it was more about just the energy that I brought to the content. And it was noticeable so much that people approached me and said, there's something different about you. You have a more grounded energy about you, and I can just feel this calmness. Right? And so that's what I strongly recommend if you really want to elevate your content creation, is you want to get very present in the moment, and you want to have a grounded spiritual practice, because it actually makes you a better content creator, and you can start riffing right off the top of your head. And until you get there, people are going to feel exactly where you are at. And so because of the fact that I was not as grounded and centered, people could feel that, and that's what they're going to take away. And because of the fact that I was so much grounded and more centered, I actually believed what I was actually saying in my presentations, in my content, and that's what people really took away from it. That's what they felt. That's what they believed. And whatever you believe, whatever is the energy that you put into it, that's what they're gonna feel, because we are all energy. We understand that we are all energy, right? And so whatever you put into your content, whatever you put into any type of creation, people are going to feel that. So understand that and get your energy right and get into a right state before you start popping on the camera. And it's gonna pay dividends far, far beyond what you could imagine with just like the thing to say. Okay. Number 3, creating the content is only half the battle. Okay. And so this kind of gets a little bit more into the do side of things. So as you might know, if you've been around this sphere at all, we have a framework called the Woo and the Do. So everything I shared with point 1 and point 2, that's a little bit more on the Woo side, right? The internal work, the spiritual journey, the personal development, the communication, all that kind of stuff. That is more on the Woo side. So let's get more into the Do side. So once you're actually creating content, you have to understand that the content that you create is a lot of times only half the battle. Now, there is circumstances when you start creating content and all you got to do is just post the content. And then all of a sudden you just have a flock of people coming and checking out your content, and boom, all your stuff just continues to grow and continues to grow. And that's a beautiful place to be. I've been there from time to time with specifically YouTube, where all of a sudden I just get traction and traction, but that took time to build up. And on your time building that traction up, you have to be a little bit more of an active content creator, not just, hey, here's my post, and then everyone can, be all drawn to it. In the beginning, especially, you have to be a promoter of your content, sharing it with other people, engaging in other people's content. One of the things that I've been preaching for the longest time on social media is that it's called social media, right? It's not called media. It's not just called create your content and walk away, right? It's called social media. So when you create content, also go out there and be social. Go interact with other people. Go like their stories. Go comment on their posts. Go share their stuff. The more engaged, the more social you are on the platform, the more they're going to reward you. And also, when you start engaging in other people's content, they're going to be like, oh, who's this person? And then they come back to your profile and see that you actually are creating authentic content that's true to who you are, because you've been going through that journey. You've been practicing, you've been communicating, you've been putting yourself out there, and you've been on your journey. You've been on your personal development and spiritual journey. You constantly are putting that grounded energy into it, because you're setting the state, and you're meditating, and you're doing all those things that ground you and center you, and you're a little bit more off the top, which again we'll talk about here in a second. But once you do that, people are going to feel that, right? So why wouldn't you go out there and be social with all the content that you're putting out there? Right? It doesn't make much sense, because it's just drawing more people back to you. I make it a strong practice every single day that I go to about I'll say this, probably about 200 to 400 new different profiles every single day, and I'll engage with them in some capacity, whether that's just liking their story, whether that's commenting on a post. But I do that every single day, and then I have a sheet where, here, I'll even show it to you right here. I even track it right here, where I have the amount of people I engage with every single day. And so I do that every single day, because that's 200, 300, 400 new people that I can just kind of say, hey, I'm right here, come check out my stuff. I engage with your stuff, come check out my stuff. And there's a percentage of people that will not only come back to my profile, but they'll actually even engage in my content, and they'll follow me. And then from there we can start a dialogue. One of the best features that I absolutely love, specifically on Instagram, is that you can have conversations, right? You can interact, and that's taking a much more active approach. And then you can either take them to your next steps. If you have a school community like we do, ours is called Authentic Influence, where we help entrepreneurs build out their authentic personal brand using the Woo+Do framework. I direct a lot of people there, and that's why we have close to 1,000 people in there now. I'm constantly inviting people to there. Okay, so go out there and engage in other people's content, and keep on doing that, and keep on getting better with your content. The more that you create it, the better it's going to become, the better it's going to get, and the better that you're going to feel around it. And because of that, then people are going to feel it. And because of that, then you're going to have better content. It's going to gravitate more people, and it's just going to be a very cohesive process. But don't just solely rely on content creation and think that that's the end of it. If you're doing that, you can have results, and if you start really gaining some traction, that's amazing, but it can take time to build up. And in the meantime, make sure that you're being social on the social platform. And that brings us to point number 4, is that the hook creates the biggest lift. What does this even mean? Well, I want you to think about content, and I want you to look at content as it's just a constant experiment, right? You think about there's 3 different things. One of my mentors talks about this. It's called, there's the hook, the story, and the call to action, right? And it could also be the hook. It could be the list of items. It could be the checklist. It could be just basically the meat, right? It's the hook, it's the meat, and that's the call to action. And basically what that means is there's 3 parts, right? The first part is hooking people in. If you can't hook people in, then it doesn't matter what you do in the meat, and it doesn't matter what you do in the call to action, because no one's going to actually be there because you didn't hook anybody in. And there's always levels to this, okay? And always think about it. We are in an ADD society right now, where you basically have a couple seconds to pull people in and gravitate them into your world. And if you don't do that in the first few seconds, then you're going to have a trouble actually pulling people in and actually delivering your message, delivering your meat or your story or your checklist or your 4 steps, the things that you learn. And then therefore you certainly won't have the capability to give the call to action on where you want to take people to the next stage, whether that's you have a video training that shows them a little bit more, and then you have an opportunity for them to book a call if you're a coach or you're a service-based entrepreneur, maybe you're in e-com or whatever it is. That is your call to action, right? But let's focus first on the hook. Now, I want to share another story around this. I used to do a lot of paid advertising, specifically on YouTube, and I learned so much. It's a lot of fun when you're spending other people's money and you get to go free reign with it to see what's going on in terms of the hooks, in terms of the meat, in terms of the call to action. You get to learn a lot. And so one story that always sticks out to me is that we were running ads for a particular client, and she was amazing. And we recorded several different variations of her ad, right? And so one of them, when we first launched the videos, it was basically her just like diving into the content. She's like, here's what I'm going to be teaching on this video. But then the next video that we actually made was more of a question, be like, would you like to learn how to grow your fitness online coaching business? I think that's what it was. And so we just layered on that question before we went right into the content. And what was interesting is that we were running the first variation for quite some time, and we were sitting at around, I want to say like $13 to $15 per lead. And so we're like, okay, that's not bad, but we're like, I wonder if we could even improve this even a little bit further. And so that's when we changed up the hook. We changed up the first 3 seconds so that it changed up a little bit different. We asked a question to see if that was something that was going to really pull people in a little bit further. And that's exactly what happened. We made that little adjustment in the first 3 seconds, asked a question right before we got into the content, and it literally cut the lead cost in half, which basically just means that it just doubled the response rate. It means that for every 100 people that saw it, if 50 people were seeing it before, or excuse me, let's do 25 people were seeing it before and 25 people were actually listening and watching it. Now, because of the fact that we asked that question, all of a sudden, it doubled, and now 50 people. I'm just using these arbitrary numbers to help it like solidify and make a little bit more sense, but you literally double the business too. That's what's crazy, is because if you double the amount of exposure, you double the business if all those other numbers stay the same. So let's say that you got 10 clicks to the landing page before, and you got 2 people to actually click on the ad, because of you had the 50 people or the 25 people, but then you make a quick shift like we did, you double the amount of people that see the ad and watch the ad, which then if those same numbers hold true, that means you double the amount of people that click. That means there's 4 people, that's double the 2, right? And then that doubles the amount of sales, and then it doubles the amount of the back end revenue. And so it literally can double the business if you just focus on the hooks. Literally can double the business if you just focus on the hooks, or whatever it is that you're doing on social media. Most of the people that we help, especially inside of our Vision Accelerator program and our Skool Community, are coaches, are entrepreneurs, people that are really wanting to help other people utilizing content on top of actually going through and making it their personal brand and really elevating themselves through their personal development journey, their spiritual journey. Now, those are the 4 things, okay? Creating content is a spiritual journey. It's a personal development journey. The content you put out is what people are going to feel and they're going to take away. So get grounded before you actually create your content. Number 3 is create content is only half the battle. You really want to promote your content. And then the hook really creates the biggest lift and literally can double the business, possibly even more. But what I did share at the beginning of this video, I wanted to share another little secret hack, if you will. I never really learned this from anybody, but it's something that's become a strong staple in everything that I do nowadays. And that's becoming what I call a run and gun content creator. And this allows you to be more time efficient and more energy efficient with your content creation. And basically that means is you can literally create content out of everything. And if you really internalize this hook, story, offer, hook, story, call to action, hook, meat of the story and call to action, if you understand that framework, then you literally can create content out of anything, right? And so last week I actually did this. I've done it numerous times, countless times, dozens of times, literally hundreds of times at this point, because it's just internal, where I can take anything and I can turn it into content. So I'm not sitting there and having to conjure up, oh, what's this piece of content that I'm going to actually make today, right? So what I did is I was actually feeling very uninspired, and I was just kind of feeling a drag and a lull that particular day. And so I was scrolling on Instagram. I got caught in a doom scroll. I don't know if that happens to you or not. But I was scrolling, and all of a sudden I found this post, and I was like, this is kind of funny. And it was this chick that like had kind of some hood music on, and she was like just dancing around in her office. And I was like, that's really funny. And I want to create that. And so I did that. I pulled up my phone, I set up the tripod in a few different spots, and I just made some funny videos of me like dancing and having a good time, and it shifted my energy. Right? And I was like, whoa, that was really cool. And so that's one of my core pillars, is like the energy, as you see here, is like the energy that you put into your content is what people are going to take away and feel. And so I made that point and I created that content. So I basically like hooked people in with all the dancing and hood music, and I was having a good time. And then I pull them into my caption on Instagram, and I teach them, hey, like even if you're not feeling inspired, it's important to get into state so that you can actually create content and feel inspired and invigorated. And that was the whole message. Right? And I said, hey, if you want to learn how to do this even a little bit further, make sure and join our Skool Community, where we talk about this type of stuff all the time, right? In terms of building your authentic personal brand, staying true to who you are, and actually creating an asset that is highly profitable, right? So that was the message. That was this story. I created content out of feeling not inspired, and I actually tied that into being inspired and using content to actually be a way that actually can inspire you. But it would be the same thing. I went to the dentist office recently, probably the most boring thing that you could ever think about. But literally, I didn't actually create all the content to get any like B-roll footage, but I certainly could have done that. But what I just gave the example is, they collected my phone number, my email address, they collected my birthday. And then, they followed up with me, and I'm likely going to book another appointment with them 6 months down the road, because they'll follow up with me. And that's the lesson that I wanted to share, is like, my hook could be like how going to the dentist office can actually make you money. And then basically I share that story about how it's really important to be a good marketer and a good business owner that follows up with your prospects, follows up with your customers, and, follows up with their birthday as well, so that you can say happy birthday to them. And because of that, you're likely going to make more money, because you're going to retain more customers and you increase the lifetime value of your customers, right? And so that is just a reflexive run and gun content creation. And all you have to do is like create a little bit of B-roll. You could do a little selfie. I could talk about it just like I did right now. I could literally just make a YouTube specifically about how going to the dentist is going to make you more money. And I could create that right here. And the more run and gun, the more it becomes a part of me, the more I just continue on this spiritual and personal development journey, it actually just flows out of me, because I'm not thinking about it, and it's just flowing out of me. So that helps you be a lot more energy efficient, time efficient. So you're not thinking you have to sit down and have to think about this all the time. And then you can just create the content, let it flow out. You're being more authentic to who you are, and that's what we're all about. That's what we share all the time inside of our Vision Accelerator program. It's our coaching program where we dive deep into this stuff for accountability and custom plan of action. But in our Skool Community, we talk about this all the time too, where we go live every single week. We talk about building your authentic personal brand that manifests premium clients, meaningful relationships, even speaking opportunities, using the Woo+Do framework and AI. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about all of that, head on over to our Skool Community. You can also go check out our video that I just put together. It talks about the 3-step framework to the Woo+Do to help you build your authentic personal brand. And all the links are down in the video description. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. Thank you, and we will talk to you on the next one. Bye-bye.